Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Always Level Up the podcast. I'm your host, Carlos Garcia, and this is where we share stories on how my guests level up in business, knowledge, health, and relationships. Today, my guest is Andy Ramirez. Andy is a general manager of New Western Acquisitions Northwest team. He's a leader, he's a father, he's a husband, and he's one of the most disciplined persons I have ever met. He has an amazing story he's going to share with us today, and I hope you enjoy it. Please sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Welcome to episode number 3 of Always Level Up the podcast. I have my special guest today, Andy Ramirez. Today we're going to talk about Andy and how he's leveled up throughout his life. Andy, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Who is Andy Ramirez?
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on your show. Andy Ramirez. It's tough to put him in one word, but if I had to, I'd probably go with asset.
All right.
Asset, yeah. In the most humble form possible, but it's like I realize I want to be a person of value.
Nice.
Wherever I go. So very intricate, but honest.
Okay, awesome. Andy the asset. We'll roll with it. So let's start from the beginning, man. And I think where you're at and where you were before, I think those are two things. They're night and day. So let's start from the beginning, man, and your journey and how you got to where you are. So where was your initial phase in your life where you realized, like, man, I need to start leveling up. I need to do something to grow.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a good question. And we always look within, and I've thought about this for a long time. And, growing up we always have pivotal moments in our lives that lead us a specific path. And when I was thinking about this, talking to someone, one of my mentors, and I was talking to them, and they asked me, like, why are you the way you are? And I never really understood that question. Mm-hmm. And I realized my drive, my ambition, my commitment to success was when I was a kid, very, very young in age, man. I think I was about 12 years old, and my parents had split up, and I was forced to grow up very fast. Mm-hmm. My mom had the responsibility of my little sister, so I always put them first, and I saw my mom as a single mom. My dad had he had some things to go through and stuff, so I saw my mom struggle, and I saw that this didn't have to be a reality, that this could change. So I was about 12 years old when I realized that this isn't for me, this isn't for them, and I'm gonna do everything I can to get out of this. And I realized that at 12 years old, probably not something I should have been thinking, but I felt like a burden almost. I felt like a financial burden, and I didn't want my mom to see me as a problem or an added issue to her life. And I wasn't a problem. My mom loves me to death, right? But that's the way I saw it. And so, man, I remember at 12 years old, I worked weekends, I worked summers, I worked every vacation hour that I got from school with my uncles and stuff, and I did all kinds of crazy jobs that they would tell me to do. I was a gopher, right? Go for this, go for that. But, I quickly realized that something in life that you want is what you make of it. Like, you're gonna have to go for it, So at a very young age, I identified that, and that's where my work ethic began, and where this ambition for more started. So this journey didn't begin 2-3 years ago. This started, godly, I'm about to age myself, right? 18, 19 years ago, right? So it's fascinating to see that, and very early, I started studying success. I saw people around me successful, my friends' parents successful, and two people who had a very big impact on me and my direction in life actually were my aunt and my uncle. Mm-hmm. And, they were the youngest. It was one of my youngest uncles, and was probably twice my age, you know, and he had just gotten married, and his wife had just graduated law school, and you know, she pulled up in a Jag one day, and I was like,
Nice.
hey, that's a nice car, you know, and they took me to dinner one day, and it was just us three, and we were eating at Chili's, man. It was the first time I ever been to Chili's. I think I was like 13 years old, you know, and I'd never been there, and I was like, what? Like, I could get used to this fancy dinner.
Better than the fast food, right?
Yeah, man. So I was like, I get used to this, and I remember like diving into my aunt and like, hey, what do you do? Like, how do you do it? Why'd you do this? Like, you know, and then she was explaining to me her job, and I was like, oh man, like I like that. And then I watched the movie called A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise.
Right.
Yeah. And the famous line, right? You can't handle the truth. And dude, that movie right there made me feel like that guy is smart, you know, like that guy doesn't fight physically, like he fights mentally, you know. And I realized, you know, I was a big athlete, so I always played sports, so I realized I was like, I got the physical down, but I got to balance it with mental.
Right.
So you know, very fortunate, you know, school came easy, learning came easy, something that I appreciate, I actually like to do. So learning wasn't the hard part, right? It was just guided in the right way. So, but yeah, that's kind of where the journey started, you know, and that was a pivotal moment in my life where very early, man, I identified like, okay, I got to get out of here. Like, I got to do this, you know, and I have to succeed as a person to be able to help my mom, help my sister, get them out, you know, and that was the responsibility I placed on myself at 12 years old, you know, and
that's a big responsibility to take on.
It is, man.
So what happens? You know, you're 12 years old. You realize, okay, I need to do something. I want to change not only my life. I want to become a better person for my mother and take care of her. Sounds like that's kind of the mission, right? So, you know, at what age, you know, are you actually willing or able to start making a change that actually puts you on that path? And you know, what did you have to do?
Yeah. So, you know, I played soccer, you know, I was a big soccer player. And that was the one thing that balanced me, you know, from ever really getting too far lost, right? Because, of course, growing up, you know, with no adult supervision, you know, shortly after that, when I got into high school, my mom started traveling a lot to Mexico and back and forth, and she was gone for periods of time. So with no kind of influence in there or guidance, very easy, man, to go down the wrong path, you know, and luckily was, you know, I think of myself as a late bloomer, but mentally I was so developed, you know, and in high school, I always knew, I said, okay, I don't really have any guidance out of this situation, you know, aside from my will, my strong will. So how can I get out of here? Right. And I dove into soccer, man. That was my ticket out, you know, and I always thought soccer was going to take me out of here, put me in places of opportunity. And, you know, my goal was to go pro. I was like, this is the way out, you know, and it wasn't the easy way out, but it was an easy way for me to at least grab onto something to give myself some sort of direction. So, all through high school, man, was a top player, and I did phenomenal, and that's what kept me grounded in school, man. Had it not been for me playing sports, then I would not have had a reason to go to school. You know, I think, you know, I'm probably the dumbest student, you know, in history of Taft High School, right? Because I remember I called my mom one day and I was like, hey, can you meet me in the principal's office? And I was a junior. I was halfway through my junior year, and she's like, are you in trouble again? I was like, I need you to come. So she just showed up with no appointment, and she thought I was in trouble. And I sat down in front of my vice principal and I was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to graduate. And she was like, you're a junior. And I was like, I've been missing a lot of school, you know? And so you go to school about 180 days a year. I had 120 absences.
Wow.
Under the radar.
What?
So hence the name Ninja, right?
Well, it sounds like they got onto you, huh?
Yeah, man, I honestly went and had to like turn myself in. As a junior, man, I realized if I keep this path, like I can't get out, you know? So it's like I have to face the consequences because no one else is checking me on this. And, you know, like I said, man, is I was forced to grow up very fast. I was forced to mature and see further ahead very early. So it was a skill I adopted at a young age. And I was a junior with half of the school year left. And I'm like, I already missed half the school year. Like, I'm already like, I can't do this, you know? And I don't know how it flew under the radar, man. Really bad. I mean, shortly after that, they put cameras in our school. So I don't really know if that had anything to do with it. But, you know, she helped me, man. That vice principal helped me. She says, all right, you're going to stay after school probably till next summer. And I was like, deal. Like, I'll do it. You know, I was like, I'll come play sports and all that. And you know, I found out that I wasn't a good student. Like, I was smart and I could retain information very easy, borderline photographic memory. So school was easy for me, but I wasn't a good student. I couldn't sit. I couldn't like sit in front of something for so long. I was impatient. I didn't have any patience and I wanted everything now. So my senior year, they gave me the option. They're like, hey, we have this end of the year test you can take. And, you know, if you think you know as much as you know, take these tests. And if you pass them, you get your credit for all year. And I was like, man, y'all should have given me these 2 years ago, right? And they're like, well, it's all the courses. So as a senior in high school, I tested out of government. I tested out of history, U.S. history. I tested out of Spanish, of course, right? Being my first language. I also took a test out of, I think it was English. So, in the span of 1 month, I took a test a week and it was like 300 questions long and I passed all of them 4 for 4, and math as well, all 4 for 4. So they were like, all right, well, you're good. You have enough credits to graduate. You really don't have to be here. So, half of about half the school year left in high school, I only had to be there till like 11, and my first 2 hours were soccer, so I only had to be there till 11. And, I would leave at 11 and I had a job, man. I was working very early and worked at a law firm, because of course that's where I was going. I knew I was going to college. I knew I was going to school. I knew my path and I didn't want to go to school, but I figured maybe I could shortcut it through college and get through to it and go to law school. And it's ironic that I'm not a really good student, but I was like willingly going to go to 7 more years of school. Yeah.
How did that play out? It sounds like you graduated, and did you go to college? What was that next leap? It seems like there was another challenge ahead of you.
Yeah. And there was, man, it got harder after that. Right. So, I went to college. I got into Incarnate Word, right. And, here in town, UIW. And, I was doing my first year there and I took very advanced classes, cause I knew that in order to be an attorney, in order to be a successful lawyer, they didn't care if I was physically superior or physically in shape, right? So they didn't care about that. It was all about intellect, right? So I knew I had to be intellectually prepared, intellectually superior, right? It's not that you're smarter than other people. It's like, I saw it like a game, right? Like it's me against you in this courtroom, or it's me against you on this case. Who can research better and be better prepared? So I took very advanced classes in my freshman year, my first semester of college. I had no habits of studying, no habits of going to school, nothing. And I thought, okay, this is a clean slate. I'm gonna give this my all. Dude, I made the biggest mistake of my life, man. I'll never forget my professor, Andrade. She was a campaign manager for George Bush, and this was a politics class. And she borderline kicked me out of her class. Like, she made me feel so belittled, and It was a junior and senior class, and here I am. I had just turned 18, and I'm taking this course with no habits. Mm-hmm. She gave out 0 homework. Mm-hmm. We had 2 tests the whole semester. Right. If you failed one, she said, drop my class. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And after the first one, I think I got like a D. Mm-hmm. And it was like, she saw the D. It was like I gave you that. Like I laid it up, right? But it was all essays. So it was like 6 questions, and it was all write an essay on all 6 immediately. And right before the next test, she was like, dude, don't even take it. Like you're going to waste your time. And dude, it just took all the wind out of me, and it took me a long time to even openly admit it to my wife now, right? That I was like, no, like she discouraged me so bad that I couldn't handle the failure. I couldn't handle that. And I fell out. I didn't go back to college. I started, hanging out with my friends a lot more than I normally would have, because of course I wasn't in college. Mm-hmm. I was always working, but I just didn't have it in me to go back to school, and I even went backwards. I was like, all right, well, let me try Vista. Yeah. And I went to Northwest Vista for a semester. Man, I couldn't finish it. I had that mental block that I wasn't good enough. I just wasn't smart enough for this. And I'd never forget that lady in my life, and then it wasn't until about, I lost a lot of time. I tried online school and I couldn't sit the class. I didn't have the discipline. What makes me think I was going to be able to do it alone at home, right? So that didn't work out either. I was just wasting time. And it was more so like buying me time. That's what I look back at now. Like, hey, at least if I tell you I'm doing this, like it looks like I'm doing it, right? So just kind of leave me alone for a little bit. Right. And I got hit hard, when I turned 20 or 21 actually. And had some issues personally and stuff like that, and my life turned around completely, man. And I realized, okay, I have to really get it together. What do I want? Right.
Yeah. So, I know, there's these challenges. You get knocked down and, you get back up, you're trying to figure it out. What was the thing that you experienced that really caused you to really just turn it up and turn around and get it together? Like, what challenge did you face that said, all right, this is something that, I have to deal with and learn from it,
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we should trade this chair in for a couch, right?
Well, I think
diving in. All right.
I think it's definitely one of those things, where you realize you have to have those disciplines, right? You didn't have the discipline, right? So how'd you get it? What'd you do?
It did make me, man. It did shape me. And what happened was, so right now I'm walking around probably like $150, in some change, but I was actually about 190, man. So I'm 40 pounds heavier than I am right now, with like 7-8% body fat. I was just this massive physical being just walking around, right? Like there's no reason I should have been that big in the first place. But I was just addicted to physically taking care of myself, and I always took pride in my physical appearance because, out of everything in my mind that was falling apart, at least it looked like I was put together, right. But that's what I thought, right? Mm-hmm. And then, when I turned 21, I went 90 days, man, in the worst possible place of anyone's life you can think of. And I went from 190 to 130 pounds in 90 days. Wow. I lost everything that it took me years to build, every muscle that I had, every, ounce of sweat that it took, blood, and I was having a lot of health issues, and I didn't know why. And at this point, man, as you lose 60 pounds in about 90 days or so, like, I'm thinking I'm tapping out. Like, I'm thinking like, there's probably a plan for me and it might not be here, right?
Seeing angels.
Yeah, man. Literally. So it was impressive to see that, man. And it was, and I was going to the doctor every single day, man. I was at the doctor's office every day. I did every possible exam you can think of. They didn't know what it was. I was an anomaly, you know? And so I thought I was going crazy. I thought maybe I'm not sick. Maybe mentally I'm just willing this on myself, you know? And it wasn't until the last doctor I saw, you know, a specialist, he told me I had developed something that is called celiac, you know, which is essentially your body's not digesting gluten, that protein, right? Wheat, barley, rye, oats, you know, so it's not processing it. So it's an autoimmune. So what happens is when you take it in, your body attacks itself. So it defends itself and it pushes things out, right? So unfortunately for me, that, you know, the symptoms vary, but mine was like, man, of course I'm vomiting, I'm nauseated. It's the worst pain in the world, man. Like I have to get, you know, IVs because my body uses up all the hydration, so I get dehydrated. It's a bad thing, man. So you know, once I figured it out, it wasn't like, oh, I'm cured, thank God, you know. It wasn't that, man. Now it's like, how do I rebuild from this? Like I was kicked, I was down, I got kicked further down, and then I just got buried in the ground, you know. But they left my nose right above ground,
just
right?
Enough to get some air, huh?
Just enough to breathe a little bit, you know. And you know what, man, is like a lot of people, you know, always see stuff like this unfold. But you know what? I like to attribute, you know, the fact that I'm a little stubborn sometimes and hard-headed. And now it's in a controlled direction, but back then it was very loose. And I think my stubbornness didn't allow me to quit. You know what I mean? So it's like, if this is my life, then this is my life, you know? And I was still in a very dark place, man. You know, I was very young. I still didn't have much guidance, you know, and I didn't have the proper guidance, I should say. And I was still very young, so I was learning, you know, and I was learning. And it took a lot, man. It took years of trial and error to know what I can eat, what I can't eat, where I can eat, how food has to be made, you know. And as time went by, I started getting better and better. And it wasn't easy, man. It wasn't, God, it was the toughest time of my life. To this day, it's still tough, man.
Well, you had to become more disciplined, right?
Exactly, man. I mean, it's like you're used to doing one thing for 21 years and you're told you can never do it again. You don't have a choice. Right. And it's like, well, you don't have to, but, you know, you're going to feel like this for the rest of your life. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. Yeah. You know, so I went through this time, man, and it took a long time. And, you know, I was very thankful to have my wife now, Vanessa, man. She was with me through all this. You know, it's like when you see somebody disappearing, literally losing weight before your eyes, it's like, man, I don't know if this is a good life for me, you know? And it's like impressive that she was a staple of support for me going through all this, you know, and she never yielded, man. She never gave up. She was probably just, you know, I say she was stubborn, but she has no stubborn bone in her body, you know, but I just, you know, she just knew, man, like, no, this is the guy, you know, and she stuck with me, man. And that's what gave me more will, like, okay, like.
Yeah, you need somebody like that. You need somebody in your corner to help you get through the challenging times.
Yeah, man. And to this day, man, like my dad doesn't understand how I eat and stuff like that. And my mom does, you know, but it's like, they don't understand the complications that come with it. It's not just a physical sense. It's like mental, you know what I mean? Like you got to overcome a lot of mental things, man. Like it's like, hey, let's go grab a drink. Yeah. Ah, man, it's just not that easy for me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just not that easy, right? Like the most minuscule task that you don't think of every day became one of the most difficult things for me to do.
So what are the things that you did have to change in your life? What are the things you had to cut out of your diet and all that?
Man, all the junk food, man. All the good stuff has gluten in it, right? And at the time the world wasn't what it is today. So now it's like there's a lot more products out there, a lot more health conscious people knowing that, you know, the benefits of eating gluten-free and stuff like that. But you know, just the added benefit to me is like, you know, it kept me good, you know, and it made me feel better, and it allowed me to at least enjoy the life, you know. And there was two ways I could have looked at it, man. I could have been derailed, I could have fallen, or, you know, get up, man, and just keep going, you know. And it wasn't a good time for me when, you know, and probably until I was like about 25. You know, I resented the world, man. I would look at people and be like, man, that's a horrible person right there. But you know, God doesn't do this to them. And, you know, I was blaming everybody, you know, and it wasn't a good place, man. That's not where you want to be, you know, especially not at this kind of moment in your life.
Right.
So it was dark.
You leveled up, you got some discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you started putting yourself some restrictions, some boundaries, what you eat, what you consume. You know, seems like alcohol wasn't part of the diet either. You know, you had to stay healthy to stay alive. So that was a big change in your life. You know, what did that discipline that you acquired from that experience in taking care of your health, what did that do to you, and how did it help you grow from there, to find, you know, your purpose, to find your passion?
Yeah, man. No, and you're right. I was still, I found out, you know, I could still drink, I could still consume alcohol, right? So that didn't happen that quick. And I found out when I was graduating college, you know, right when I was 24.
So you did graduate?
I did graduate college. I did.
Okay.
I did. So level up, right? So I did graduate college.
So you went back to college?
I did. I went back.
After the episode with everything?
After the health got somewhat regulated.
Okay.
I did go back to college. And
all right.
I was going to go to St. Mary's this time. And because I wanted to go to the law school. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to Incarnate Word, right? And I'm going to do 1 semester at Incarnate Word. And I'm going to take that professor's class. And I went back.
You had to redeem yourself.
I had to. So I went back to her class and I sat right in the front and I stared adversity right in the face. You know,
I'm coming for you.
Yeah. And at this point in time, I was like, man, like I didn't break. Like, I'm here, you know, and I was like, I'm doing this. And man, I applied myself so hard in that class, you know, and at the end of the semester, man, I ended up pulling out a B.
Nice.
And I'll tell you what, man, you would have thought I won the lottery. You know, I walked out of there, I was like, I'm out, you know, and I felt great, man, and transferred to St. Mary's right after that to continue my criminal justice degree with my pre-law concentration, right? And it was good, man. I was around law school, I was around law students, it was great. I was still drinking, you know, still having a good time, whatever, but I realized shortly that had to come to an end as well. You know, I started distancing myself from people that were holding me back. You know, I realized that my ambition and my goals for myself were bigger than my urges, were bigger than you know, the people that were holding me down, you know, and that can happen, man, when you make a bad calls on who to hang out with or where to go, right? So little by little, I started cutting bad people out, making new friends, surrounding myself by better people. You know, and in the meantime of me being in school, since it was easy, I always had businesses, man. I tried to make money every which way you could, you know, and I failed every which way you could. You know, I lost a ton of money. I lost a ton of time. I lost it all, man, you know, and but never my will, you know. So right when my last semester of college, I took the LSATs, you know, I did well on the LSATs. I was gearing up to go to law school, and that last semester, man, you know, my life flipped upside down again, you know, and it flipped upside down for the right reasons, though, you know. I avoided a lot of legal trouble, right, and I dodged a big bullet, you know, but that's when God came back into my life, man, you know, and I'll never forget that day. You know, I was just looking down and I fell to my knees, man. I fell to my knees and said, I'm done, man. Like, I'm 24 years old and look where you have me, on my knees, you know? And I was like, I can't live this life anymore, man. You do it, you know? And that was the first time that I felt God actually say, finally, like, it's about time. Like, you learn, you know? And I made a deal with him, man. And I said, let me write out my purpose, whatever it may be. Protect me as best as you can. and I promise I will do the best, and I will be the best I can, you know? So, you know, when I said asset earlier, it's not as a company, it's not as a business, you know, that's extra, but as a man of God, man, I like to spread and add value of him where I go. So I graduated, and a week after I left my university, St. Mary's, you know, law school was going on in I think like late August. So I had the summer. So what am I gonna do? Work? Okay. But I had this interest in real estate. This bug had bit me, you know, and I always kind of knew, you know, and I'm an analytical guy. That's what my degree was in, and in studying, you know, how to analyze things and looking at things from all angles, right? Like the loopholes, right? And so when I looked at things, I was like, man, okay, there's 1% of lawyers are multimillionaires, you know, 80% of millionaires are through real estate. So I was thinking, I was like, all right, that's a much bigger target, you know. And, you know, financial success was something that I always craved because of my upbringing. That's the whole reason why I'm putting myself through all this, through school, through everything, because I need to put myself in a position to where I have an opportunity and a level playing field to come out here and be a financial success, right? And attain this financial success. So, you know, I found New Western, man. You know, I think Vanessa found it, of all people, right? She's just been a saint and a light in all this darkness. And we were going through a lot of things in our family and her life, and it was just a very bad time for us. And she found this job. She's like, hey, I know you're interested in real estate. I found this online. You know, I gave the OC a call at the time, and you know, I told her, I was like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I walked in, dropped off my resume on a Friday. I was like, why is it dead in here? She said, everybody's at lunch. And I was like, okay. I said, that's a good reason why. And, you know, I got to my car. I got 4 blocks before Nathan Crone, man, the OG, right? Called me up. Said, hey, man, you're interested in working here? I was like, yeah, I'm interested, man. He's like, how about we set up an interview for you know, next week? When's the earliest you want to come? And Monday was Memorial Day. And I was like, Monday? He's like, oh, it's Memorial Day. I was like, you don't work on Mondays? And he was like, I'll be here. And I was like, well, then me too. And I was like, me too, man. Like, I'm ready to go, you know? So I met him here Memorial Day, you know, and coincidentally, I met another great man that day in the elevator, you know, who's always leveling up, you know. And I'll never forget what you said, man. You're like, nice suit. And I was like, nice trophy. You were carrying the trophy, right? For the best office of the year. And you were just cradling it like a little baby. And you're like, I know.
We put in some work.
Yeah. And, you know, Nate brought me in for a ride along that Wednesday. I saw y'all's morning meeting. I analyzed the business up and down in the 3 hours that I was in here. The model, the people, the process. You know, I looked at it all, man. And I'm an analytical guy, and I had a lot of failing businesses that had opportunities to be successful, but they were failures because I was the one running them, right? I wasn't in the right state to do any of that stuff.
Winging it, right?
Yeah, I was winging it, man.
Piece it together.
I was winging it. And so when I came in, I saw the business. I was like, oh, man, like, this is from God. Like, this is where I need to be in a business like this, right? I saw the potential it had in where we were. We were very, very young at the time as a company. And, you know, probably an hour and a half after the meeting, I come in, I go to Nate's office. I was like, all right, man, I'm in. Where do I sign? He's like, you didn't even go look at a house. I was like, man, I don't have to, man. Like, I'm in. And I told him, I was like, how long did it take for you to sit in your seat? And he said 7 years. I was like, I'll do it in 5. And he was like, you do whatever you say, man. You know what I mean? It'll take you 6 months to sell a house, so good luck, champ. And I was like, done, man. I was like, you mind if I sit here? You mind if I just start working out of here? Right? I didn't have my real estate license at the time, right? So I said, I was like, man, I'm going to give this my all. You know, this was God sent. I'm going to give this my all because he put this in front of me and I'm supposed to be here. And I feel like I can contribute. I feel like I can add value. So, man, I was like, if I don't like it, I go to law school. I don't veer off the, paved road too far, right? It's not a big deal. I got a plan B. Man, that summer changed my life, probably, I won't admit it, right? Because we're on tape, but probably sold more houses than ever before, right? But, as I did my courses, I did all that, man. And man, I was just a bull on fire.
Right.
I loved it. I think I sold my first house in like my first 4 days or something like that. And again, my first buyer came from Vanessa, she referred me over somebody who was like at a store she was working at, and she's like, oh, you do really say my husband does too. And that was it, man, and it was awesome, man. I fell in love with it. And I remember that August before law school started, I told her I'm not going, and
change of plans.
we're going that way, and it was crazy, man. It was crazy. And she wasn't so sure about it, she knew, she's like, are you sure? Because everything else kind of failed. Like, we're in this very tough place. We need money now. Like, we don't have money for rent. So, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Right.
I didn't have a dining table. I had a couch because I had bought it 4 or 5 years ago. And that's where we ate dinner, was on the couch, man. I literally ate for those 3 months that I worked here, because I couldn't get paid, right? For those 3 months that I worked here, man, I sold off everything. And a lot of people don't know this, but you have to have a laptop to work here. And Vanessa's little sister was actually in high school, so she didn't take her laptop. So while she was in high school, I used her laptop. Wow. And I didn't even have a computer. I had to sell it to pay rent. And, rent was only like $825, man. Those were good days in the north side, right? But it was like, I couldn't even do that, man. So when I tell you I was living on scraps, I was living on scraps, man. And that's hyping it up, on scraps. Yeah. And, but it was a good lesson for me. Mm-hmm. Taught me that I didn't need as much as I thought I needed to get by, So I took off in sales, man. It didn't take me long. I came in, I sized everybody up, and I said, okay, that's what I have to compete with. And it wasn't hard, man. It wasn't hard. Back then, people didn't work like we do today. So, they showed up Mondays not feeling too well. They worked Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and Fridays they left early for lunch. So it wasn't really hard for me to pass people up, and blow people out of the water and become a top sales agent really fast. But I always knew, like, man, this is it. And coincidentally, opposing our culture here, right, was that's where I stopped drinking, was the month before I started here.
Oh, really?
That's when I stopped the alcohol.
Wow.
And I was 24 years old, because I always knew, I was like, man, I keep doing pretty crazy things under the influence of some alcohol, right? Like, I don't make the best choices in life, and
it happens. So
I realized it wasn't something that I needed. Like,
right.
It was something that I did because it was there and I wanted to be social. But again, my goals and where I wanted to go were bigger than my urges and these temptations and fun. I almost became like a robot at some point. Like, I don't need fun. I just need success, So I was just driven towards it, and I had a responsibility at the time, as me and Vanessa got engaged, So I had to fend, for my future family at this point.
You had to level up the relationship, huh?
I leveled up the relationship. She went through me through the health, through college, through out of college, through failures, through business, I was like, man, even when I tried, this girl didn't leave me. Right. So I was like, she's the one.
It's the best ones to have. It's the
best
one to have, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I was like, she's the best one, and I'd be foolish to think otherwise.
Right.
So we leveled up the relationship, and I stopped drinking when we did. And I told her, I was like, I'm not gonna risk us, not that I was that like horrible, but it's like, it was a risk. It was a liability. You
knew it was enough to where you needed to make the change and do something different, right? Your drive for success was more important than anything else, and definitely coming from all that adversity.
Golly, yes, man, yes. And so I thought I was done with it, right? But it was the beginning.
Yeah. So as you started to take off in sales, you started to sell a lot of houses, started to change. What were the biggest things that you started to experience, through that process, and where did it lead you?
Yeah, man. So I think, once I experienced that, I had this ability, and I was always this people person, right? And I was always this disciplined person that can just focus and achieve what he sets forward and what he wants to do moving forward. And, I was like, man, I just got to put my head down. Mm-hmm. Like, I was still so impatient. I wanted all of it. I wanted more. And today, and luckily I was introduced to the right people, one of our great friends, and then he mentored me for, God, probably still to this day, and for the first time in my life, I had never seen somebody out of the free will of God's gift just genuinely want somebody to be a better person, and it was so foreign to me that I was like, I'm not doing anything for you. Like, I'm an asset, right? Like, I'm value. What am I supposed to do for you? He's like, nothing. Like, you're doing it. Just be better, and I was like, that's crazy. Like, you're crazy, and but man, it was God.
Right.
God put this Christian man in my life, and then I was like, okay, like, I know where I'm going, and I appreciate this, and then coincidentally, I started developing a better relationship with my leaders in this office, with you, and I realized, I said, this guy has the same principles, he has the same mindset. Okay, like, I wanna mirror this success, and I said, man, the ladder up the company is the way these guys are going. When you rock climb, you follow a line, right? So it's like, you guys were on the line, and everybody else is trying to create their own, and I'm like, well, you guys don't see this? Like, just follow, man. So as a leader, I realized you got to learn to follow,
right?
And I wasn't like this impeccable, perfect human being, but I just knew that the game consisted of this line, and we had to follow that line. So I started doing great. I remember that, I didn't give Vanessa anything for our engagement or anything like that. And I had just gotten paid for the work that I had been doing a little bit. And it caught me up maybe 50% of what I was in the hole for, right? But I remember I gave Vanessa like, $1,300 or something like that. Like, pretty much I had all in my savings. I was like, here, go. She went with her friend to Hawaii, and and she spent 8 days, man. In 14 years, that's the longest we've ever been apart. I sold 4 houses that week because I had nothing to do, so
I gotta make all this back.
Yeah. I was like, I gotta make it back. So she was like, what did you do? I was like, I sold 4 houses, and it was even within my 6 months. So at the time it was, I remember when Nate told me, he's like, man, just sit here and learn. It's gonna take you an average of 6 months to sell a house. And I remember I told him, I said, man, respectfully, as long as you never say that again, like, I'll be fine. Then he just kind of looked at me like, what? And I was just like, dude, I know my mind. Like, I know the power of what I do, so don't put that in here. Right. So he said 6 months, I'm going to say 6 hours. And it happened in 4 days. Right. And it wasn't a fluke, man, because I did like 3 in my first 30 days, and I kept going from there and never slowed down.
Right.
But then the opportunity, of course, came where I had the chance to go to another office, man, and start from fresh. And I didn't see it as a risk because I was following the line, right? Even though a lot of things were still not in my favor, or I wasn't probably the best suited for anything, I knew that I would be, so I made the conscious decision to want to go. Apparently it didn't happen so lightly, but thankfully you gave up some draft picks, and I don't know to this day what you did or how much it cost you, but I was able to go, and we opened the Northwest.
That's right.
And that's where the star was starting to form, man, and that's where my life was starting to to take shape, you know, in the right direction. But again, that's where the roller coaster was starting. It wasn't anywhere near the end, man. And you know, every step is, you know, I thought I was doing better. I thought I was in a better place, and you get humbled real quick, man, real quick. So it's interesting how all that played out, but you know, I ended up here.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was quite the journey, you know, from getting into it, and you know, from where you started, and just the whole process of what you went through and endured. But you did have some lofty goals, and you had some short timelines, you know, and you know, after that transition happened, and you know, you're off to this new venture, and well, it's the same business, right? But now it's a new role, and you know, where does that take you? You know, I mean, it's like things happen, and you know, how does the next level happen? You know.
So the next level came hard, man, you know, and I realized that as good as I was at my job and at working, there was another 90% that I was not good at, you know, and that was myself, that was people around me, that was leadership, you know, and these were, you know, windows that had never been opened to me before. I never would have thought a business owner needed to be a good leader. Why that was beyond me, I had no clue. I just thought you needed some money and you needed to know what to do, right? And obviously that wasn't the case, because I failed at every business, but it was because I wasn't a good leader. And, you know, funny thing is, man, I played center mid in soccer. That is the leader on the field. That's the quarterback pretty much, you know? So it's like next to like the goalie who sees more, but that's a guy who keeps things in order. And I remember I had a lot of harsh realities checked with me, you know, because I still had an issue sitting still. I couldn't be in the same place for too long. And it wasn't until a wise man told me, he said, man, you always get good at something, but then you stop, you know? And I realized you don't need gray hair to be wise. Sometimes you can be bald, right? And I said, you know what? He's right. Why don't... And I realized, I said, success is a scary thing, man. And subconsciously, I was a little afraid of it, because I couldn't see past it. At the time was, you know, Vanessa had just had my oldest daughter, you know, Vivian. And so I had bigger responsibilities, you know, and life became more important than what I thought it was, you know. I thought I was just here to go. And no, God gave me more purpose than that, you know, and
your child take care of.
Exactly. Gave me purpose and Pampers, right?
That's right.
But, you know, so I saw that I was a little scared of success, and that's probably why I never really thought myself fully there or gave myself the opportunity to get there. You know, people say is you can't be afraid to fail. Oh, trust me, I wasn't afraid to fail. You know, what I realized was I was afraid to succeed. And once I got past the fear of success, I knocked down that barrier, you know, I knocked down that wall, and the world opened up for me, you know, and I realized that I had to change more than anything. And it wasn't just mentally, it was down to the core. You know, I couldn't change the exterior. I couldn't give this facade, right, of who I am or what I want to be. I have to be genuine in this change.
Right.
So you know, you have to look within, and I started digging in and pouring out the bad. Literally, I use the analogy is, you know, a lot of people, for some reason, associate me with Achilles, you know, and Achilles, the story is Achilles' mom was a god, right? She was a goddess, and she dipped him into this water, and that's why he was unkillable. He couldn't be killed.
Right.
But she held him by his ankle, which means the only part that didn't get wet was his heel, his Achilles heel. And that's what killed him. And that's why it's called an Achilles heel to this day. So, you know, I had to have myself shaken upside down and get all the bad out, you know, and just control, delete my brain, and start over, man. And that was the journey that began the rest of my life. It was tough.
So what happens after that? You realize, I got to change. I got to become better, a better person. What did you chase to make you become a better person?
Yeah. So, I stopped competing. I realized that in the middle of competition, I was giving other people, the satisfaction that they were as good or could even be as good, so my competitive factor was actually blocking my growth. It was impeding because I wanted to be better so bad that I couldn't focus on what I wanted to actually improve on, So I stopped competing. I said, if somebody's better than me, great. But I'm going to be the best I can be. So I stopped trying to be better than everybody else. And I just started being better than I was yesterday. And I learned that's where I learned to compound success over time, right? Will equate to something magnified. Right. And I started just winning the day, man, is one day doing something that I was going to appreciate tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And, ultimately was my drive and hard work led me to great production and great, success in that sense. But it allowed me to free my mind, to really give myself the tools and give myself the ability to take in what is being fed to my brain and my mind and my person. And I was fortunate, man. I was still living very frugal, even with my daughter. I believe Vanessa hated it, but Vivian didn't have a crib, man. We had just gotten a 2-1 apartment, and I didn't have a TV stand. My TV was on the floor, angled on the wall because I lost the stand over time. So it was angled on the wall. So if you were on the couch, you had to look down at it. And Vivian didn't have a crib. She didn't have a changing table. All her toys were on the floor. And I was just in this mindset where it's no, trust me, one day it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. And I knew that God's got me. We're going to be great. We're going to be great, And the changing point to me was when there was one year when my license lapsed. And you only told me 5 times to renew my license, and I forgot or didn't listen, and it lapsed. So I couldn't get paid anymore, right? Because I was doing the renewals. Right. And I remember that I was driving home, and Vivian was she was almost 1. I want to say almost 1, and I was driving to our apartment, and I had a full tank of gas. And I logged on to my bank because I got a notification that my account was overdrawn. And I logged in and I saw that, the car payment went in and the rent payment went in. And my account was negative, and I remember I pulled over on the exit and I was just looking at my phone, looking at my account. And I remember I looked up and I was like, thank you, God. I was overdrawn drastically, but I remember thanking God with such grace, man. I remember feeling the emotion overcome my body, and I teared up. I teared up. I was so thankful. And in my mind, I heard God, sarcastically saying, "Why are you thanking me, Andy? I want to hear you say it." And that's what I heard in my mind, and I remember responding to God and saying, "Because you'll never allow me to be here again." I said, "So thank you, and I want to enjoy this because I'm never going to be here again. I promise that." And he gave me the validation. He said, "Okay." And that's what I heard in my head. And in my mind, that was God speaking to me. And that was the last day my account ever hit negative. Because I didn't have money in it. Now I forget to transfer money or something, but it's not because I don't have money in it, right? But that was the last day, man. And I vouched. I vouched for myself. I told God, I said, "You got me here." And and we're gonna do this together. And I remember that day so vividly, man. I can almost tell you how many stars there were in the sky at the time, because it was just such a impactful day on my life. And I got home and I played with my daughter in her room, and I said, she has no idea we'll never be here again, you know. And you know, the chances are we could have, but the thing is that I was getting smarter, and I was getting better personally, and I knew that these habits were developing in me that wasn't going to allow us to be in these positions again.
Right.
And that's when I started realizing, okay, I could do this. You know, I want to climb to the top. And I started taking my progression to being a general manager at New Western very serious, and nothing was going to get in my way. You know, no one was going to get in my way. No sense of you know, temptation, urges, nothing like that was going to stop me, man. I was equipped for the road, equipped for the journey, you know. And you know, shortly after that, I think God keeps us all in his favor, and he moved the stars and the moon, you know, and I got my opportunity. And I remember the day I was taking over the Northwest office, right? And I remember the day Nate told me, and then you asked me, you said, hey, are you sure you want to do this? And I couldn't for the life of me understand why you would ask. You know, I couldn't understand it. I was like, of course, man, I've been working my butt off for this. Like, this is what I want. And I couldn't understand why. And it made sense a year later after I realized how much work it was and how tough it was. But I was like, of course I did. And I remember I texted Nate and I said, 3 years, 4 months. And he was like, what is that? And I was like, I told you 5. I'm sorry. You know, when I first started, and he laughed about it. And he was like, a lot of things happened for this to happen, right? And I was like, hey man, my mind works the way it works, you know. And that was where the road began.
That's impressive, man. Well, you know, you take your focus and you apply it, you know, and you were able to make something great happen for yourself, for your family. You know, so I take it, you know, that things changed in your household. You know, I think you probably got more than a couch in there. You got more than you actually got a stand for that TV. maybe you even got a house.
I did, man. I did. You know, and I did. I actually did it backwards. You know, I lived in an apartment and I was able to buy 2 rental properties before moving out. And Vanessa was kind of upset that we had tenants living in nicer houses than us because we were still in an apartment. So we bought a house out in Helotes, and just the best first home you could ever imagine, man. It's homey. It feels great. It was us, you know, and you know, my vision was coming true to her. You know, everybody hated the fact that I didn't go to law school. Everybody was so against it. They told me, go get a salary job, go get benefits, go get this, you know, and I was like, I'm just gonna bet on myself, you know, and I went all in, and now it's kind of like, I knew you could do it this whole time, you know, and
everybody's a fan.
Yeah, everybody's a fan, and I was like, nah, like, it doesn't matter if you knew or didn't know. The fact is that you guys didn't leave my side, you know, and my wife, my mother-in-law plays a huge role in this, my mom, you know, and without their support, you know, I wouldn't believe in myself. And but yeah, we got our house, you know. I scratched off one of my dream cars off the list, you
Nice.
know, and it was phenomenal, man. But, you know, I realized that the higher you climb, the thinner the air gets, you know, the thinner the air gets. And the bigger you get, it's just a magnifying glass on you, you know. And I had gotten to the mountain. I thought this whole time I was climbing it. And no, I was training for the climb. You know, I was at the mountain, you know, becoming a general manager and running my own team now. And I had to learn a lot of things, man, you know, and that was the first year I got my first gray hair at the young age of like 20.
Well, you can't even see it.
Yeah, at the young age of like 28, you know, something like that. And it was crazy to see what I thought I was ready for and how far I was from ready. But my will never changed,
Right.
you know, where, you know, I started stressing out. I had to deal with stress at a level that I wasn't used to because of the dependency. Now you got people that depend on you now.
That's right.
You know, you got people that are watching not only your moves, but are following you. One wrong turn and everybody falls off a cliff, right? So that's just the way I saw it.
Keep them on the ground, man.
Exactly. So, you know, and I still had ambitious goals, you know. You know, we were the second office in San Antonio, and I wanted to be the best in the entire country.
Right.
You know, that's my ambition, but it wasn't to beat everyone. It was to be better than we were, right? And a year after me taking the job, I finally felt ready. I was like, yes, like January 1st, 2020, it's, oh man, we're about to go in. It's going to change everybody's lives, right? I thought I'd gone through it all. I thought I had it all planned out and figured out, you know, and then we hit COVID, right? And I had to take a step back. I had to take a step back. And once I took a step back, I learned a lot more, man. I couldn't predict COVID, but I took a step back and learned how to forecast better and prepare the team for blows to the stomach, you know? And we got through COVID in a phenomenal fashion, thankfully. And, you know, I got to January 1st, 2021, and I was like, all right, this is the year.
This is when it happens.
This is last year was a fluke. I meant this year, you know, and this is the year. And man, to be honest with you, it's a lot of what I've learned is coming into fruition and it's coming into reality. But it's a big part because of the people that I'm surrounded with on my team that have also learned, you know, and have also had the will to adapt and become better, you know, and those that have been wanting to grow and continue to move up in leadership and in income, right, which is their biggest thing at their level, is have tremendous success, you know.
Right.
I mean these guys are doing numbers we couldn't dream of as agents, you know, and it's impressive to see them progress, and it's impressive to lead them. But you know, I always tell people, I said, I don't lead like a triangle. I lead like an upside down triangle where everybody's in front of me and I'm just making sure nobody gets left behind. Right?
Nice. I like that.
Because we're just here to serve, man.
Right.
We're just here to serve. So
That's awesome.
Financially is, you know, it's fun, man. And it's good. And I realize, like, you know, it solves a lot of problems that I had as a kid. And thankfully we don't have that problem anymore. But it's like, man, I've made the most, I've made the least, and the happiest I've been is just coming home and watching my daughter run out of the garage, you know, waiting for me.
Calling
like,
your name.
Yeah, like, where were you? I'm like, just like I've been for 4 years of your life, at work, you know? So it's just, man, just seeing those kids, you know, it's elating, man. Yeah.
That's so awesome, man. Very impressive story. Come a long way. You've leveled up many times. Health, family, business, personally, just growing in all different ways that you can. You know, here we are. And you know, what's next, man? What's the next level? What's the next level? Where are we going?
Next, man. Well, I still haven't broken the habit of not sitting still. That's unfortunately a bad habit in me. And you know, I'm on pace to have probably one of the best years in the Northwest office we've ever seen.
Right.
And it felt comfortable.
Yeah.
It felt real comfortable.
Yeah.
You know,
felt
and
good, huh?
It felt good.
Checks got too big.
That could never happen, right? It could never be too big, but it's like, it felt comfortable, you know? And I started getting a little scared because I know what comfort looks like, and it's derailing.
Yeah, it can
and
be.
When things get quiet, you know, it's the calm before the storm. So I always look to take the path of most resistance. You know, I'll take the least resistance when I'm old and retiring, right? But it's like, man,
after the work's put in.
I'm a week into my 31, you know, so it's like I got a lot to learn, I got a lot to do, and right now is the time to do it. And so we made the bold decision that I'm going to go out to Las Vegas, Nevada.
There you go.
I'm going out to Las Vegas,
Level
man.
up.
Level up, man. Level up. And you know, people think I'm crazy, man. I've talked to other GMs and stuff, and people think I'm crazy. And not because of the market, but because of how well the office is doing and how long and how hard it was to get here.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, I'm not doing this for myself. You know, I'm not doing this for my family because we're fine here. This is home. This is so comfortable to us. Like, you know, and this feels good. But, you know, my purpose is bigger than me, you know, and I want people to see that at any level, there's always room for improvement.
That's
It
right.
doesn't matter where you're at, right? You got to always level up, right?
That's
so it's
right.
like, it doesn't matter where you're at. Like, you have to make changes in your own life to beat certain habits. And my habit of not staying comfortable and sitting still, I got to go beat it out in the desert somewhere. You know what I mean? And it goes to show, man, it's like, okay, how good are you really at controlling your habits? You know, how good are you really at leading people? You know, I tell people all the time, is that anybody could have a good month. Call me when you have a good life.
There you go.
Right? So it's like, anybody could have a few good months here and there, but it's like, can you make a good life from nothing and from scratch? And I'm so blessed, man, and fortunate that this company is just as crazy as me for me to go to the desert in the middle of nowhere and start something from scratch, but supports me so much, man. And
Right.
that goes back to being an asset, you know, and, you know, I'm fortunate that people see value in me, and sometimes they see more in me than I see in myself. Because at this point I'm just humbled left and right with punches to the gut sometimes, right?
Hey, you got to take them. You got to be able to take them.
Exactly. But, you know, we're going out to Las Vegas, man. We're hoping to expand the business, hopefully expand the brand, and, you know, expand what I set out to do, you know. And I think one of my best qualities is my loyalty, you know, because I tell people all the time, they're like, well, you know, couldn't you do this on your own? And I'm like, no, are you kidding me? Like, you're absolutely crazy. I tried everything on my own. Like, nothing worked. You know, so I was like, no, are you crazy,
so
man? I couldn't do this on my own. And, you know, not just referring to the process or anything like that, but it's like the support, man, you know, and
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, is the learning. Like, I have resources to me that Fortune 500 CEOs don't have.
Right.
You know, I've got minds to support me that they don't have and have never probably had. You know,
Right.
I've got a team of these people, you
That's
know, and it goes all the way from our CEOs all the way down to our newest sales agents we learned something from.
Right.
You know, so it's just an impressive culture that we've been able to amass. And, you know, there's risk that goes along with it, but I think that it sets the right example, man. I think it sets the example for us moving in the right direction as a company. And yeah, we could sit here comfortable and from the behind our desk, but it's like, but
Time to grow.
do you live what you preach, man?
There you go.
You know, are you the first to be uncomfortable? Can you get better? And that's what we're going out to do.
There you go.
And so it's not easy, man, but you know, the support is big, the support is there, and it makes me feel a lot more confident, that's for sure.
Awesome. Well, you know, you're making these things happen. You're doing things that are out of your comfort zone, and it's no question why you've been able to advance yourself to where you're at and where you're going. You know, close it out, man. What advice would you give somebody? One thing, you know, what advice would you give somebody? Old Andy Ram, young Andy Ram, Andy Ram. What would you tell him?
Man, that's a good one there, man. What wouldn't I tell that guy? I'd probably punch him before telling him anything. I'd probably grab him by the big ears. And that's why I probably got big ears, because God dragged me by them a few times, right? But man, the best advice I can tell people is remain loyal to the people that support you and believe in you, you know, because they're the ones that are going to lift you the highest, you know. And when you give your support to somebody, they're the ones that are going to be there through all of it. You know what I mean? And, you know, this goes from my personal relationships with my wife, you know, man, people think I'm successful at the Northwest office. Like, nah, like half of it is her, you know? So it's like, she gives me just as many ideas. I just pass them off as my own sometimes, right? But it's like we do life together,
right.
You know? So personally, I feel extreme support. I'm loyal to her, you know? And professionally is, you know, I'm loyal to those that have given me the opportunity, you know, and relentlessly loyal, you know, and, you know, New Western, yourself, you know, and I've told you this countless times, man, you've given me the one thing I can never pay back, you know, no amount of money in the world can ever make me pay you back for giving me opportunity. Like, I am in debt in perpetuity for, you know, the CEOs for starting this company many years ago and battling through everything that I've heard they battled through. You know, and battling me a lot of times, right? Like,
we all have our challenges, right?
Battling me, man. And I was probably one of your biggest challenges. I'll admit it, you know, and, but you never gave up, man. And the fact that you were loyal in helping me develop myself and never once wavered from the challenge.
Hey, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So
we did it together, right?
Absolutely, man. So I just tell people is, man, be loyal, because your support system is the best thing that you have going for you at any time.
Right.
You know, those are the people that you're going to have to fall on.
Hey, there you go.
And will catch you.
You said it. You said it best. Well, Andy, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us on the podcast and all the golden nuggets that you've dropped. You know, I mean, you have gems galore, man, and there's a lot that anyone can learn from and apply to their life. So remember, guys, always level up, stay humble, stay focused, stay driven, get uncomfortable, and stay loyal. That's what's going to help you grow. It's going to help you get to the next level. It's going to help you to continue to advance yourself. Thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, share. See you on the next one.